Before we start, let's watch this clip.
2012, the government instigated quotas for universities. In the last few months, the system appears, though, to have stalled.
So providing equal access for Brazilian students that are Afro or of mixed race has always been of the utmost importance for the Brazilian population. You cannot have an illiterate and uneducated population for the long-term benefits of the economy and the labor market. And this has led to mass pressure from Black movements, people on the left, center-left parties, as well as people just in the academic circles, really calling for change in this subject for affirmative actions and racial quotas. Such quotas that in 2012 we saw legit federal policy in Brazil that pushed the narrative to include people of color, Afro descendants, and that led to actually the 400% increase of Afro and indigenous populations of students going into universities. And yet there are still limitations to affirmative action in the nation due to the consistent ideas of a racial democracy in which Brazilian elites or the nation itself suggests that it has moved past racism in order to ensure a racial harmony, which is not at all the case. Most Brazilians of all colors acknowledge that there is some type of racism or prejudice going on in the country, and most of them also experience this on a personal level. And this is where the entire sector of higher education comes to play with the rest of the nation's portrayal of what Brazil looks like, as mass television and advertising media portrays Brazil as predominantly white. The reality being is that the majority of the population in Brazil is actually Afro-descendant or of mixed race. It is only that the middle class is predominantly Caucasian. And so therefore, in order to see this middle class status in Brazil, in order to achieve it, has increasingly been based on university education. But so what, right? So what of all of this action is being put in place? These policies have already been implemented a while ago. Well, for it to be actually really effective, you have to really have this end towards a racial democracy way of thinking. National debates have to be pursued in order to have both race and class be in a conversation of policy making, legislative action, and you also have to have a serious talk about policies really in academic circles. In this case, I would even argue that Brazil has to do this actually very quickly. The world is not going to wait for Brazil, and with the global economy ever being so much more competitive, Brazil is going to have to really ensure that if it wants to have a highly educated population, a strong labor force, as well as a superior economy, it has to really take into consideration the uncomfortable conversations it has to have related to racial inequality in the country to actually prosper and move forward into the future where actual harmonious relationships between different people can actually occur.